which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our January 23rd Board of Ed meeting. First up is our approval of agenda. May I get a motion, please? Katie, second Jim. Any questions? All in favor? 6-0. Next up, Mr. Poole, Superintendent Report.
Good evening and thank you. To start off my superintendent's report, I'm going to turn it over to our two ex officio board members for an update on the high school athletics and I think a little update on the college application process. Great, thank you.
So I'm proud to announce that our own ex officio, Emily Sherrill, won the Poetry Out Loud contest, and her little sister, Isabel Sherrill, got second place. Both will be attending the next contest at Stony Brook University, February 26th, and we're all rooting for them.
That's cool.
We also have our play coming up soon, Blythe Spirit, on February 8th, that our theater department has worked very hard on. We also just recently had our winter pep rally, and it was an overall wonderful success. The event started with the calling of our winter sports teams, the singing of our national anthem, and then performances by our cheerleaders and our dance team. It was capped off by our second annual staff volleyball challenge, which was won for the second year by Team Halonia.
Uh-oh.
And finally, the Robotics Club will be meeting daily after school in order to prepare for a competition in Belmore on Saturday.
Additionally, the boys' winter track and field team won the League 5 title this Sunday. They beat out Mount Sinai, who before this had a 6-year win streak, so congratulations to all of them. And the annual junior-senior class auction is approaching. This event is crucial to the fundraising for the upperclassmen, and the auction will take place on March 9th, and the doors open at 5. We will begin calling numbers for baskets at about 6, and at this moment we are in need of donations from the community, which could include gift cards for local businesses, themed baskets, and other items. Additionally, donations of cases of water, soda, candy, and chips to sell at our concession stands would be appreciated. The hope is to break our record from last year, where we had 398 baskets, so any contributions would be much appreciated, and on behalf of the senior class, we would love to see you there, and thank you for the support.
Very good.
Now, last week we also attended the Curriculum Development Committee, and we collaborated with parents, teachers, and administrators to create a list of desirable attributes an SWR graduate should have. It's a wonderful opportunity to share our opinions and as well to collaborate with our parents and teachers and everyone in charge.
We were very glad to be there. Thank you for having us.
Oh, great. You guys were great.
Okay. On a personal note, as far as my college journey is going, I've finished submitting all my applications, and so far I was offered admission to Stony Brook University and New Paltz. On December 16th, I received news from MIT that they had deferred my admissions decision until March. As well, I was notified that I have moved on to the next stage of consideration for Stony Brook's Simon Center STEM Scholars Program. I was invited to an in-person selection weekend event that will take place on February 2nd and 3rd. There I will be interviewed and I will meet other candidates that are up for the same program, the same scholarship. This is the second year that the program will be running, and it provides underrepresented STEM majors and all expenses paid education up until the PhD level. So I'm very excited for this opportunity.
Wow, good.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank the guidance staff, all my teachers, because they have supported me so much. They are the reason that I am where I am.
Congratulations.
I have also completed all my applications. I've gotten accepted to New Paltz, University of Rhode Island, and Arcadia University. So far, I'm waiting back on Brown University and Binghamton. I've mostly done it all with my friends and my guidance counselors. I'm forever grateful to them. My teachers have helped me with my college essays, so I'm also thankful for them. I think as of right now, University of Rhode Island is my top choice. It has offered me a presidential scholarship, so I get $6,000 a year to go there, and I also get in-state tuition because my dad lives there. So cost effective, but at this moment, that's where I'm looking. And For surprises in the application process, I was very surprised when I didn't realize I needed to submit a video, like introduction to Brown University. So that was a little bit of a shock and had to pull that together very fast. But I think it turned out well, and I'm excited to hear back.
Very good.
Great.
Yeah, no,
Congratulations.
mhm.
What about majors? What are you guys looking at as far as majors?
I would like to major in biochemistry.
I'd like to major in psychology.
Awesome, great.
Wonderful. And congrats on the scholarship, too.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. So, just a few events that are happening around the school district. Over at the middle school, the No Names Players presentation of Footloose Youth Edition starts this Thursday night at 7 p.m. The No Name Players have been working really hard in preparing for the show, Break a Leg. You can visit our webpage to get tickets for that middle school extravaganza. And thank you to the middle school PTO, who last Friday sponsored the Winter Wonderland Dance for middle school students. Very generous of them to do that. Good time had by all. Over at Wading River, tomorrow, our fifth graders are heading to New York City tomorrow to see Back to the Future on Broadway. Do you remember what play you went when you were in fifth grade?
We didn't go in fifth.
Maybe it might have been fourth grade.
Oh, yes.
We saw The Lion King on Broadway. It was amazing.
The Lion Kings. It could have been the fourth grade trip back
Correct.
then. So yeah, that's great. They have that special behind the scenes talking to actors after the show, as has been typical there. And when we had a little bit of snow, it's a taste of snow. Students at Wading River had the chance to go outside using the stereoscopes and look at the unique crystalline formations of snowflakes. So it's nice that students got to get out and enjoy a little bit of snow. I did get a letter last week asking me for a snow day and why I didn't call it a snow day. That was on Wednesday. And then letting me know from the fifth graders that I had a chance to redeem myself on Friday if it snowed. So it didn't really snow that much on Friday, so I didn't have a chance to redeem myself. Over at Miller Avenue, students enjoyed an assembly last week from Rainbow Fish Productions. First and second graders are heading over to Brookhaven National Lab for hands-on science field trips, and really importantly, kindergarten registration is on the way. So if you hear me saying this, tell your neighbors who have students eligible for kindergarten. The more information we have, the more students who have registered, the easier it is to plan for all students for a smooth opening to the school year. So if we can get the word out, that would be wonderful. Additionally, just a brief update on the Artificial Intelligence Committee. They had a final meeting last night. I want to thank all of the parents, teachers, administrators, students that came to those 3 meetings. It was 5 hours of time while they were there. And hopefully we'll have a final draft for the next board meeting to share with the public and the Board of Education on moving forward with artificial intelligence. I want to congratulate Mr. Peter Esposito, again, our Director of Instructional Technology and Cybersecurity, who received the Bright Light recognition by the Association of Suffolk Supervisors for Educational Technologies. He truly is a bright light in Suffolk County, and it was an honor well deserved. This week, on Monday, the Legislative Committee, met this past week to finalize our legislative priorities brochure. The meeting was attended by Stephanie Stafford, who's the Chief of Staff for Legislative Chad Lennon, a new legislator for the area, introduced herself, offered any support from Legislative Lennon's office. Committee members will be coming to an upcoming board meeting to share the legislative priority brochures as they annually do, and the committee has dates scheduled already with Senator Palumbo's office and Assemblywoman Jody Giglio's office over the next 4 to 6 weeks to advocate for the district. Tonight we have a capital planning presentation, a 5-year capital plan for the district. Maintaining healthy, safe, and engaging learning spaces is a pillar of our strategic plan, and over the years, the district has continued to invest in facilities. If you want to see some of those changes recently, visit our webpage. I'm glad to share the plan shared tonight. It will continue that work, and thanks to our community who have supported the creation of reserves and funding, which allows us to keep improving and keeping our facilities great. And I'll be giving a brief update on the strategic planning process tonight as well. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. As Mr. Poole mentioned, under our reports and reviews tonight, we'll have our first, which is Mr. Rossini, our 5-year capital plan. Mr. Rossini.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having me, Board of Ed and Central Administration. We've been working very hard behind the scenes on this plan for about the last year or so. The plan was kicked off by the building condition survey that was performed by our district architect, BBS. And that was done in consideration, in consultation and surveying with central administration, building leadership, building maintenance team, all the key stakeholders to come up with how our buildings are doing, if there's any improvements that are needed, wishes, wants. So that's how we've developed this 5-year capital plan. We've presented the plan to, administration has presented this plan over several meetings to the Space and Facilities Committee, and I'll go over it. So here's just a brief visual overview of some of the capital improvements that have been done throughout the district over the last several years. The roof coating here at the high school this summer, the school store here at the high school, the library space at Miller Avenue, the gymnasium at Miller Avenue, the repaving here at the front entryway at the high school, the cafeteria addition at the Wading River School, and the art room here at the high school. So when we have started thinking about the capital plan, there are several factors to consider. As Mr. Poole alluded to in my introduction, our health and safety concerns are the most important of the factors to consider. Are there also legal mandates? Are there operational benefits? Are there projects that we can do that'll keep our operational cost down and provide savings to the district? Are there specific needs, a change in curriculum or a desire to change some type of a learning environment? These are all factors that we consider in the capital plan. Some of those topics are presented by the district architect, health and safety and the legal mandates, and more so of that matter, and then the operational benefits as well. Some of that comes from the architect, some of that comes from district personnel, and then the district administration provides any sort of insight in the educational needs that might be shifting. We have developed this plan with financial constraints in place. There are several funding sources that the plan is gathering its funding from. The committee, the Space and Facility Committee, has not at this time chosen to ask for more money. The funding sources already allocated funds. They have not chosen any projects or suggested any projects that would require funding outside of these sources. So the capital plan is encompassing the school years of 24-25 through 28-29. The plan will be updated every year should any changes or needs arise that were not thought of or made mention of at the beginning of our planning stages. Should some other severe need arise, we would have to adjust our plan accordingly. So our first funding source is the Tax Stabilization Fund, or prior year state aid. The first set of projects here that will be funded with this is we're proposing to do a transfer to the capital fund for the upcoming school year budget. Our current balance is just a hair over $928,000 at the end of last school year. We anticipate putting in approximately another $675,000. That money will go back to the tax stabilization reserve, and that money is coming from the current projects that are nearing or ending their completion, coming in under budget. So those are the projects of the art rooms and the auxiliary gym. They all came in under budget, and those funds will go back to this funding reserve. That's an important note that these funds must be used by the end of, before August of 2024. So the proposal that we will have will accomplish that goal. So one of the aspects of this project is to do some infrastructure, electrical infrastructure projects throughout the district. It's important to know that many of the electrical panels throughout the district are original. They are nearing their end of useful life, as well as the repairs to those electrical panels is increasingly difficult as the replacement parts are not able to get them on the open market. We're having to go through extra means to accomplish that, and it's becoming more increasingly difficult. So it's suggested by the architect that we will replace these panels throughout the district, as well as increase some of our electrical services throughout the building where needed. So at the high school, we're proposing to add or replace up to 5 electrical panels, as well as some other electrical infrastructure. At the high school, we're also proposing to install hardwire carbon monoxide detection systems. The system that we have in place currently is to code. However, it will not provide any sort of supervisory call-outs like a traditional fire alarm will at this time. So if something was to arise after hours or on the weekend, the alarm is only local, and we could be potentially coming into a problem Monday, Saturday, any day that we're not here overnight, and having to address the problem more, in a more imminent fashion, rather than having some time to be able to address that. At the middle school, we'll be adding some sub-panels throughout the building, replacing some original panels and some original switchgear, and performing that same scope of work with the carbon monoxide detection system. Over at Wading River, we're planning to replace 6 original electrical panels that, again, fall into that category where we can't get the parts for them any longer. At Miller Avenue, it's the same thing, except we've identified 5 original panels here. It's important to know that administration presented the committee, as this is one of their larger concerns, as was outlined in the BCS, as this type of projects will hopefully repair any sort of problem that will delay or prevent school from opening. So that's how these projects rose to the top in priority on the BCS and for district administration. The second part of the transfer to capital project is to create 2 additional single-use bathrooms at the Miller Avenue School. The Miller Avenue School does not have the necessary number of adult bathrooms for the amount of staff that's there. So we are proposing to construct 2 additional single-use bathrooms in a small, to convert a small wedge-shaped instructional space by the gym for this purpose. We're anticipating being able to complete this over the summer of '24. So this project, estimated by the architect, a fully loaded cost of just under $400,000. The second funding source for the capital plan, the 5-year capital plan, is the 2017 capital reserve. This reserve was created and approved by the voters in May of '21 to fund HVAC-related work throughout the district. Part of the BCS that was identified by our district architect had a number of HVAC-related projects. So we've bundled them together, the more prevalent and important projects, into this category. And we're looking to spend district-wide a little over $365,000. We're projecting this work to begin this summer, and due to some of the equipment's projected extended lead times, we are going to be completing this at the end of next summer. So we're looking at a completion date for this scope of work at the end of September of 2025. So I'll go over the key points of each of the schools' HVAC portions of the capital plan. So over at the high school, we're looking to do some improvements to the ventilation systems in certain key areas that either have a malfunctioning exhaust and ventilation or need further improvements. We're looking to rehabilitate the gymnasiums, the main gymnasiums, heating and ventilation units, as well as add air conditioning to that space. We're looking to replace the condensing units that supply the auditorium with air conditioning. They use an old refrigerant that is outdated and is becoming more and more increasingly difficult to source that refrigerant. And as well as the units have reached their useful life, so it was recommended by the architect to replace those units to a more modern, more efficient unit that uses the modern refrigerant that is easily available. Additionally, here at the high school, we are going to be installing air conditioning in the 2 remaining wings. So in A and B wings, we'll have air conditioning added to the rooftop units in those spaces, and as well as connecting boiler number 3 to the building management system to improve the efficiency of the building. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but we're going to be doing some control system upgrades and replacement to components of our control system, which ties back to that building management system. Over at the middle school, we have 4 rooftop units that service the auditorium area and that side of the building that have reached their end of their useful life. So we're looking to replace those 4 units. And we also have a number of the old Johnson Controls, outdated controllers that support our building management system in units 3 through 12 that have to be replaced. Similar scope of work in that aspect as the high school. And this building total here is about $720,000. Over at Miller Avenue, we're looking to improve some of the exhaust at the nurse's office, in the sensory room, in the office by the library, down in the basement where the kiln is, as well as correct, here again, as a similar scope as in the other buildings, correct some of the control problem issues that have arose. We have a poor control at some of the classrooms in the 400 wing, so we're planning to update the control systems that supply those the inputs to those units and add ventilation to the copy room. We also have a leak on one of the boilers, boiler number 2, and that will require the section to be replaced. And the building total there is $435,000. Over at Wading River, we have some, again, ventilation improvements throughout the building in the kiln area, in this recently divided room, 159A, and the math room, as well as provide replacement to some of the rooftop units have deteriorated ductwork to replace that insulation, and supply heat to the vestibule that was created. The vestibule was created for security purposes, and this will extend the heat to that vestibule, so people and visitors and parents coming into the building will have proper heat in that space. The project total for this building is $245,000. The third funding source for the capital plan is the 2021 capital reserve. The focus here for this scope of work is the turf field replacement at the high school track replacement. Those 2 are identified in the BCS. While they're in good condition, the turf is getting close to its end of its useful life and will likely have to be replaced within this 5-year of our capital plan. Another portion of the 2021 capital reserve is the technology infrastructure and fiber optic cabling replacement and enhancements. This portion of the plan was presented by Mr. Esposito in prior board presentations. The fiber optic cabling here that we're speaking of is the the fiber optic cable coming from the street connection into the buildings. Some of the internal fiber optic and the technology infrastructure is upgrading and replacing various technology pieces. The final and fourth funding source for the 5-year capital plan is the annual maintenance budget. Approximately 50% of the annual maintenance budget will be devoted to items that were identified in the BCS. The approximate total for this is $1,324,875. The projects that I'll speak of are incorporated now into Buildings and Grounds 5-year maintenance plan, as well as other projects and needs that arise on a yearly basis. So year one, our main focus for this portion of the project will be to enhance, improve, and provide additional security cameras throughout the district. Looking to install a small section of sidewalk that's needed at the middle school to connect the parking lot to that storage building near the track for ADA compliance. And this third and fourth items is going to get repeated each year, and that's for us to provide the proper fiber mulch depths at both of the elementary schools for playground safety. In year two, we are looking to improve stairwell lighting here at the high school. District-wide, we're going to focus on providing card access and air conditioning to all of our data switch cabinets. And again, provide that important safety mulch at the playgrounds at the elementaries and improve the parking lot lighting at the front of the middle school. In year three, our project will be to seal coat the Miller Avenue parking lot and restripe it, in addition to the playground mulch. Year four, the Wading River parking lot will get seal coated and restriped. And again, both elementaries will get their safety mulch. And in year five, we're planning to replace the backstop over at Miller Avenue. We will be replacing the hot water heater here at the high school, refinish the middle school stage floor, install a new backstop over at Wading River, and again, the safety mulch at both buildings. Do anybody have any questions before I summarize the capital plan?
I just want to clarify the inclusion of the maintenance of the proper wood fiber mulch depths are additional items added to the maintenance plan. However, yearly we have an annual review through, I think, our insurance carrier. Is that correct? To make sure that we maintain the proper wood fiber mulch depths. Can you just clarify the inclusion of this particular line item this year or in this plan?
Well, it was identified by the architect as a recommendation. It's a practice the district has already been doing. And it's
Okay.
nothing that we take care of it every year anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that they pointed out and we wanted to make sure was addressed, outright in our plan. That's just something, it's in our normal maintenance plan every year anyway. Before school starts, we take care of it. And then
Okay.
if there was a need throughout the year, we'll provide additional mulch.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I had a similar question with that one. So these aren't just the annual maintenance items, there's more. These are ones that we're adding?
Yeah, some of them, like the mulch is something that we already will take care of
Right.
on a normal basis. But these other projects are items that were either on our list or on our thoughts to take care of, that the architect has recommended.
Okay. So the year one maintenance plan, even though it's showing here $250,000, we're probably well over that because you guys have ongoing maintenance.
Yes, the
Okay.
projects that we've outlined in years 1 through 5.
I don't usually see like capital projects and maintenance projects under a capital plan. Maintenance is like continuing, right? And capital is new. So usually you don't see them on the same, it's not considered capital, right? Maintenance, technically?
Well, not all of
Unless
the,
you're funding it through a maintenance budget.
not all of the items. Some of the items, they came off of the BCS, so we've incorporated them into the maintenance plan.
Okay. Another question I had on, going back to the transfer to capital funding, so that you anticipated approximate 675,000 in surplus from, is that, what projects were that, and what's the percentage of surplus? I'm just curious. It seems like an awful lot of money that was overestimated.
We actually received a lot of good fortune on the general contractor that was, that had bid as a joint project renovating the auxiliary gym at the high school and the two art room spaces. We had budgeted a little bit less than $3 million for that, and then we actually saw about a $675,000 come in under budget. There were, the next highest bidder after the lowest bidder would have brought us a surplus, assuming they didn't find any other unforeseen issues, of only approximately $75,000. So it isn't, you just can't look at how much did the single project come in under budget. We actually were very fortunate to get a general contractor to bid as low as he did, because the second bidder after that, we would not have been realizing the level of surplus that we are.
Okay. The carbon monoxide detection that you mentioned is going to be, I guess, advanced to notify us. Is there a value to that? You said it's not required. It's a, I don't say nice to have, but like, is there a cost associated with that? If we had to trim or cut budget?
Well, it's certainly a safety item that was pointed out by the architect that the district administration felt was important. You know, currently, the code does not require central monitoring of carbon monoxide. However, the architect was leaning that that code is impending.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, not having central monitoring, if there was an issue overnight, we come here in the morning, you know, we may not be aware of that until, you know, just before the bell's
6
going to
a.m.,
ring.
right. Okay. The bathrooms, where, do we have a plan of where we're locating the displaced sensory room?
Yes, we currently do. We actually met with the building principal earlier today. She's in the process of developing her 24-25 budget. I apologize, building utilizations map, and there'll be multiple versions depending upon the number of sections based in our special education area. Will actually determine the final location of the sensory room. So we have two different ideas, but we are confident that we will be able to locate one, assuming that we don't get the perfect storm of getting an extra section of K, an extra section of special ed. Then it becomes a totally different problem. But we are confident that we do have another location that is suitable for the sensory room, assuming that our building utilization for 24-25 is similar to that of 23-24.
Okay. Last question, I think. As far as approval from the community to do any of these projects, is it just, I know the 2017 is already approved, that scope of work?
Yes.
The transfer to, the prior year CA transfer to the general fund, is that just something that the board does, or is that
No,
that
that'll
part
be
of the?
part of the 24-25 budget.
Okay.
It is a separate line item inside of the budget. We will see that presentation, similar slides that are here, will be incorporated in our budget presentation for 24-25. And assuming the voters support the 24-25 budget, that's when the money will leave the tax stabilization reserve and get transferred to the capital fund.
Okay, and the 5-year, the 2021 capital reserve, none of those projects have been approved by the community just yet, right?
None of those have been presented to the voters for
Okay.
consideration. One of the important notes that Mr. Rossini pointed out earlier was, as part of this capital plan, Comptroller's recommendation is, look at the funds you currently have available to do capital projects. And look at funds that voters have already approved, but you have yet to start the capital projects, in order to list out as part of your 5-year capital plan what you're going to be doing. So it's important to note for the 2021 capital reserve, we have a little less than $3.3 million as of June 30th inside of that reserve. We were listing the projects that, as of today, based on our current knowledge, this is what we intend on making a recommendation to the voters. But again, as Mr. Rossini pointed out earlier, the basis of this that Space and Facilities Committee took on was look at the building condition survey, a required process for the State Education Department to see a 5-year plan from an architect or an engineering firm to say, what do they feel is the district needs within the next 5 years? So we use that as our basis, and that's where we picked a lot of these items from.
So the capital reserve still has, what, 7.5 is the cap?
Cap is 7.5, so
So you
we
still
could
have-
still place about approximately $4.2 million, assuming we have good fortune over the next 7 years.
Okay.
Yep. And if in the future, the Board of Education elects to put up to the voters requesting the establishment of an additional capital reserve, as we put funding in that reserve, we would then amend this annually in order to capture any type of a reserve related to capital or maintenance that we could do work with.
Okay, so the goal is to amend this annually?
Yes, the 5-year, as it's stated way up early in the beginning, slide number 4, it is 2024-25-2829 capital plan
I
to
got
be
you.
updated annually and as needed. So if something material changes within a given year, we get 400 more kids enrolled in our district, and we have to do a building addition at 2 of our buildings, we would amend this for that particular mid-year change.
And this was a state requirement?
Comptroller
Comptroller.
strongly
Okay.
recommends a district have a 5-year capital plan, yes.
On the project scopes for the high school, it shows the HVAC. Was there a similar at the middle school? I see it says provide AC to the main gym. Did the middle school make it to the same level? Is there a plan to put AC at the middle school just in the future?
Currently, Tom, no. What occurred was, as part of the 2017 capital reserve proposition that went out to the voters, after a number of projects were completed, the last project was district-wide heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and cooling changes. As we saw fit, the high school has the highest utilization, and based on the available funding, that's how that wound up to be part of the 2017 capital reserve work. If at a point in the future, we do another proposition related to heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and cooling, we could easily capture the middle school gymnasium coolings, but that's how the high school made it, based on use, based on utilization.
So the 2.365 million identified on the HVAC for the high school, that's coming out of the 2021?
No, the
Capital
voters have
reserve?
already approved, it's coming out of the
The 2017?
2017
Okay.
capital reserve. Should be, that's on slide number 7. 5-year capital plan, 2017 capital reserve. The scope of that work was approved by the voters May of 2021.
But that was a broad base, that was a definition, right? We could use it for anything under that.
For heating,
umbrella.
ventilation, air conditioning, and cooling. So we went through the building condition survey and identified HVAC-related items. And with the help of Mr. Perez, Mr. Lewis, who were the capital projects board liaisons, met multiple times with the district architect and engineer, Mr. Rossini and Mr. Poole and myself, and carved out these projects that were under the voters' scope, that they actually approved for us, and feel we are going to get the highest return for both the staff and student impacted spaces inside of each building.
Well, since you brought me up that I was there, I think another reason for the AC in the gym was because of testing as well. right?
Correct.
Okay.
No, yeah,
I don't know if Brodell uses it for testing, but that was one of the reasons why.
Well, listen, I know they're both hot, so they both could use
Yeah,
AC. That's
they
why
are
I'm just
both
asking
hot.
the question. How
Yeah.
did one make it, the other one didn't? That's all.
Purely based on available funding and the utilization.
Okay.
Wasn't it also discussed that those units were going to be replaced anyway? And we were adding the AC to it?
No, we are actually adding individual independent. You could see on the scope of work, we are number
The condensing units, right? No, that's all it's
88.2.
for.
88.2, the second line for $80,000. We are repairing the ceiling-mounted gym heating and ventilation units, and then we are adding separate units. So we aren't replacing, it was more cost-effective to replace what I have in place, repair what I have in place for heating and ventilating, and then when it comes to cooling, add 2 separate units for cooling.
And how does that affect the controls?
The engineers tell me it's going to work great. That's as far as my
Well, I wish
knowledge base goes.
Henry was here, because controls are always the issue.
I apologize, I don't know that answer.
So you could have one calling for heating while the other one's calling for cooling.
Then there's the off button. During the heating season, I just turn it off.
Okay.
In the cooling season, I turn it on.
The other question I had, since Tom brought up the HVAC work, so you mentioned that it's going to span over two summers,
Yes.
and there's some long lead items. I guess on the rarity, there'll be a time where a unit's out being replaced where there's no heating or cooling to a room? Is that a
This isn't-
possibility?
This isn't the first time that we've changed rooftop units. I've done probably 8 of them since I've been here. We change them usually out over the summertime. And primarily, if the stars align correctly, the shutdown period's about a week's time.
Okay, it just seems like a lot of work for it not to have classroom disruption.
They will not be getting done during,
Okay.
when
I'm
school
saying
is out.
all the HVAC work, because it seems like it's a lot, even though you're spanning a full year, you're really doing the work just the 2 summers?
Majority of the heavy lift items, such as air conditioning, a gymnasium, over the summertime only. Similar smaller areas where I am putting exhaust fans inside of where the kiln is, that's something that could get done over a break. One of the hottest things in school construction, as this Board of Education knows, they've seen a lot of it, is we have 8, maximum 10 weeks to get a tremendous amount of work done. And every year I walk into a building and say, oh my God, I'm never going to open. And every year I open. So I'm becoming more and more numb to the concern of not opening. The contractors that bid on our work have been great, and they get the work done. Does it take a lot of effort? It sure does, but we get the job done.
Do you foresee amending this as funds become available in the capital reserve 2021?
Yes.
I know there were some items that were left off probably because of funding concerns, like, I know you're resealing and restrapping parking lots that we've recently renovated, but I know the middle school really needs a new parking lot, so do you foresee funding, like when the funding's available, that becoming potentially a project?
The answer to your question is, as more capital funds become available, the plan should always be amended to include projects related to those available funds. As far as a middle school parking lot goes, I think there's other infrastructure questions there that we should answer before we do the parking lot, but the parking lot is high on the priority list there, yes.
Okay. I guess you have to be patient so the funds could collect enough to do those big projects.
You know, it's similar to your home construction project. The question is, do you save money and then do the repair? Or do you take on additional debt because we feel the repair or change is actually needed sooner before we are able to save? It's always that question, and that's why I'm going to go back to the initial point that Mr. Rossini made earlier. When Space and Facilities took on building a 5-year capital plan as a recommendation to the Board of Education, the question was, what do you use as a basis? What is the best document, the most inclusive document, so that they're able to see what should be repaired, what do administration feel should be added, what does the maintenance team feel where the problems are. So after going through that extensive building condition survey list, they didn't come up with a group of items that says, okay, we also feel these changes are so critically important at this time that we are going to recommend to the Board of Education, we should go out to bond. So that is an option that's always available to the district if they feel there are needs greater than money is available, or before I could save enough money in order to complete that work. Always have the option to ask the voters to take on additional debt. That's always an option available. But as I see it sitting inside of the operations chair, there's nothing that we don't have available funding already inside of our reserve accounts that, for me to make a recommendation to the superintendent or the Space and Facilities Committee to say, listen, X, Y, Z is so bad, I think it's important for the district to take on additional debt, bring this to the voters. I just have not encountered something like that. First thing that would always come to mind for me is the Miller Avenue cafeteria and kitchen. If there's something that I was going to say is so critical, that's always one. It's a big item, and it would change the whole dynamic of the Miller Avenue building. But I still don't, I just launched pre-ordering, and I had 26 meals on Monday. So I don't see that level of a desire there to take on a $3 million kitchen and cafeteria project.
No way.
Well, no, I mean, the choices weren't that great, only because you're limited, so.
Doing the best I can.
I know, well, I'm
Better
saying,
than,
like.
better
you know,
than what I had a week earlier.
I got you.
I had nothing a week earlier. Doing great. Thank you, you did a great job.
So I guess the summary of it, you were on the summary plan of?
Yeah, so summarizing the five-year capital plan, there are four funding sources that have been identified by administration and recommended use from the Space and Facilities, prior year state aid, the 2017 capital reserve, the 2021 capital reserve, and the general budget maintenance plan. The prior year state aid will accomplish is proposed to accomplish the electrical infrastructure repairs and upgrades that are needed, the additional bathroom at Miller Avenue, the 2017 capital reserve fund as outlined in its adoption by the board and the voters is for district-wide HVAC projects. The 2021 capital reserve, as presented, will fund the turf and track replacements here at the Kootenella Field at the high school, technology infrastructure, and fiber optic cable replacements district-wide, and the five-year maintenance plan. Approximately 50% of the budgeted amount from the general budget will be devoted to this part of the five-year capital plan, and that'll encompass camera work, security camera work upgrades and additional cameras added, card access, readers, and air conditioning to those sensitive data cabinets, ceiling and line striping at the parking lots at the elementaries, backstop replacements, and ongoing mulch replacement at the elementary playgrounds. And as presented, the five-year cumulative total for this plan is 9.7 million, a little over that, 9.714 million. As Mr. Curie alluded to, the committee, the Space and Facilities Committee, met over several months at the beginning of the school year, and at this time will not make a recommendation to the board to take on additional debt. There was no projects identified by the BCS as something imminent to take care of that these funds are not addressing.
Any other thoughts, questions? Thank you, Mr. Rossini, for the update.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Cool. Next up would be our strategic plan update from Mr. Poole. Thank you.
Great, well, good evening. I think the last time I came to discuss the strategic plan was probably over the over the summer, but we have been plugging away on collecting data, that phase one, which was collecting data, working on a profile of a graduate, getting some feedback and survey information from constituents. So I'm going to start with the profile of a graduate, which is really creating a vision for a future graduate of Shoreham-Wading River. What are those characteristics and traits that are really important to the community that would propel a student to success in the future? So we had a survey in the fall, 343 survey responses. I do want to say that that's low. I was shooting for 2,000. We had lots of outreach, QR codes at parent-teacher conferences. It was on the district newsletter, additional emails. So for better or for worse. But I will say this. With 343 responses, it's very hard to say that's really representative of the larger community. Hey, this is what everybody kind of wants. So we did take it to the Curriculum Council to do some further work on these traits, and I'll get to that a little bit later. The top 6 that came out of the survey: academically well-rounded, effective communicator, responsible, confident, socially, emotionally competent, and adaptable. That's really a great list of 6 traits for any student to leave Shoreham-Wading River with. All of the options did get some response from everyone. So I did break it down to the different groups in the school district: students, parents, guardians, and instructional staff. And there's a fair amount of similarity going across those 3 types of constituents in the school district. We see responsible show up twice, academics in all 3, effective communicator, social, emotionally competent, and other SEL characteristics and traits that showed up on the 3 lists. There were a couple other questions on the survey. One was related to metrics. I'm not going to read all of those. This will be on the webpage, hoping the community will take a chance to read through some of these responses when they have the time. But in general, the response to the metrics was not overwhelmingly, hey, we should be measuring GPA, SAT scores. It was a balance of, yes, academics, but we want to make sure we're measuring those holistic parts of a student as they're leaving Shoreham-Wading River. Some of those are ability to apply knowledge in real-world situations, character and soft skills, interpersonal skills, global awareness, and ability to serve the community. And some other comments. One of the questions was, what else should be considered? If you look at that, we see some similarities to what was presented in the initial survey question of, pick a trait along the way, but we see resiliency, building empathy again, problem solving, preparing for both career and college, independence and autonomy in thinking, communication skills, being ready for various career paths. So lots of rich information. So that information was shared with the Curriculum Council, and then the Curriculum Council looked at some additional information. You may recall it wasn't too long ago that we revised our mission, vision, and value statements, probably 4 years ago now. And if you take a look if you read through those, you can pull out some characteristics for students: lifelong learners, problem solvers, global members, collaborative, curious, and socially, emotionally competent. It did link back to the survey results that we had, so committee considered that. New York State has recently put forth the draft profile of a graduate, so the committee took a look at that. We definitely see some similarities to our survey results: effective communicator, problem solver, socially, emotionally competent. And then the committee took it a step further. What is the business world looking for in graduates coming into the future? Self-leadership, interpersonal skills, cognitive skills, digital fluency, and citizenship. And we see in some of those categories, again, critical thinking, communication, mental flexibility. So taking all of that, the curriculum committee met, and there's several people here tonight. Mr. Sheridan, Mr. Lewis, Emily and Megan were there, as well as probably 20 other people sitting around in different groups talking about this for a good portion of the meeting. And out of all of that, a draft list of 8 traits emerged along the way. So empathetic, really connected to social emotional learning; effective communicator; adaptable, meaning flexible and collaborative, global citizen, critical thinker, responsible, resilient, and achievement orientation, which is really related to personal growth, academic curiosity, and that desire to learn for students.
I'd like to add, we had a great graphic at our table, too. So
Yeah,
it's
they-
much better than that
We
that
did,
little pie
Maya.
chart.
Yeah,
Maya
they
drew,
did.
I know,
Maya drew that.
I should have had Maya draw
Should've, yeah.
Maya drew a person and had the traits on it along the way. So we have a little bit of work to do as a committee, maybe to refine those a little bit further, the language of those, but I think it's a good direction. It's a who wouldn't want their child to graduate with all those traits? So next steps for the profile of a graduate is really to take a further look into those survey results and have the committee really think about the definitions for all of those. Come up with a working definition, and a working definition that works at the elementary level and at the secondary level. Once that's done, the next step is going to be is, where are we already conducting activities and student work and opportunities for students to become effective at communication? So kind of doing a crosswalk. What are we already doing, and then where are those gaps? And then having a conversation about, well, if we're not doing enough for effective communicators, what else might we do inside of our current program? So that'll be some of the work that we do, and I'll be happy to share that with the public and the board in the next couple of months after our next committee meeting. And this will take some time. Defining it will probably get done this year, but really looking at what we're doing and where we can improve in those areas will be a process that will take several months or a good portion of next year as well. So just briefly, I'm going to move on to updating the 2019-2024 strategic plan. The profile of a graduate is going to be part of that plan. The pillars of the plan: whole child, graduation, high quality, healthy, safe, engaging spaces, communication. We're really drivers for the school district over the last 4 or 5 years, and most of the activities that we took on, the work that we did, the initiatives fell under these categories. You just saw a great presentation on space and facilities, and the work on healthy, safe, and engaging learning spaces as part of that pillar, which the community expressed an interest for the district to continue doing, did happen over the last 4 or 5 years. So updating that plan is really important as we move into the future. And as I mentioned earlier, phase 1 was really collecting and evaluating data. We're in a great spot for that. Student governments have had the opportunity. I have 2 more student governments to meet with. Board of Education advisory committees all conducted SWOT, opportunities, threats, strengths analysis at all of the committee meetings. All staff had the opportunity to provide feedback on those pillars. The profile of the graduate survey asked those additional questions about metrics, about what else should be considered for graduates of the school district. We have other data that's been collected: student outcomes, fiscal projections. We have the capital plan. So all of this is collected. We're ready for that next step. Hold on, let me share a few samples with you because they are kind of cute. I did meet with the Miller Avenue student government. Some great ideas on there. I think probably the best one is class pets in every room.
That's great.
I know Mr. Arcuri liked that one.
Class pets.
Along the way. But if you think about it, if you kind of read through them and pull them up a level, you know, that they're around patient fair and engaging staff, that we continue to support them in art work, that they have extracurricular opportunities, that they have chances to exercise on playgrounds, and that, Mr. Arcuri mentioned it earlier, cafeterias where you can buy your own food. Wading River Student Government, pretty impressive list from them related to cafeteria service, homework, mental health, athletics, and instruction. And they really were very thoughtful. I think I had them for 45 minutes to an hour really talking about what do you hope to see when you get to the middle school, hope to see when you get to the high school. So fair, balanced, and engaging homework. Make sure that when I get up there, that we have all the athletic programs that I'm looking forward to, that you still have all those programs when I get up there as a student. Cafeteria service, consider offering breakfast, make sure the food is high quality, you know, what are the improvements that we can make. In instruction, they really talked about supporting technology and innovative technology in the classroom, one idea for a chocolate 3D printer, didn't know they made those. And outdoor learning is important. They enjoy getting outside and want to see that a part of their future.
I think the board can fund that with surplus funds, right?
Yeah, the chocolate printer.
Chocolate printer.
Chocolate
Yeah,
printer?
I
Chocolate
think so.
3D printer, yes.
We'll have to go test it out to
Yes,
make
we'll
sure
have
it
to- we'll have
works
to see- we'll have
properly.
to- I told them I would look into it. So we'll see.
That's great.
We won't, I won't read all of those, but there's some K through 12 staff responses for the whole child. The staff was great, lots of feedback from staff on the pillars of the current plan along the way. I'll just point out a couple, make sure we keep the focus on mental health, hands-on, authentic learning experiences, further support collaborative staff that work together across grade levels and buildings to ensure program alignment, best practices, and support transition. So lots of great feedback from district staff across the buildings that we'll be synthesizing and evaluating and incorporating into the next 5 years. So next steps is really to form a steering committee, certainly have some components of that together already. That probably will be somewhere between a 30 to 35 member steering committee. Parents, guardians, administrators, students, trustees, faculty, to come together to take a look at all of the feedback and district data, think about what are some measurable outcomes for the school district related to the responses we got from the community-wide survey, draft some action items, align them under the themes and pillars and those metrics, and take that on over the next few months in the school district. And when that work commences, I'll come back and share some of that draft work from the steering committee.
So I want to commend you, Mr. Poole. I do think it's very important that the district continue to have a strategic plan, and all the things that we've achieved in the last 5 years culminating into where it is in '24. The pillars that were presented, the way that you have presented to the district and achieved those, looking forward to the next 5 years. The CDC meeting that Alan, Mr. Meinster ran was terrific. Having our ex officios there, great job, all of you. You should be proud of yourselves. I'm sure your parents are proud of you, giving your college updates tonight. Just seeing that all of the, all the things that are put forth and how you've all turned out as students is just really the outcome we all want to see. So it's great to see this, Jerry.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know if
thank you.
I don't know if anyone has any specific comments. I do like how you have surrounded the district with all the constituents, trying to receive feedback and find out what is on people's minds for responses. So I think that's terrific. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts, but.
Mr. Poole, I would imagine that the pathways that were recently put out, that what we can expect will dovetail with this. When are we expecting more information on that? Do we?
Well, they said now the Board of Regents has to work on it. They presented briefly on that. So the Blue Ribbon
Coming
Panel
well.
Commission. So
Yeah.
I would expect something by the end of the school year.
You
And
think
some
so?
of that would absolutely factor in. Are there opportunities for changes for graduation requirements that we want to take advantage of for our students that make sense for us as a school district? So that definitely factor in. We'll want to make sure there's some flexibility in the plan for us to address that
Okay.
as
Definitely woven throughout this portrait of a graduate and our strategic plan is definitely that sense of measurables beyond academics for student success. And I love that included is number 6. Often you see top 5 lists, and that you decided to include the adaptable number 6, because I feel like that's what our district is poised to be, and we just need to wait for the state to catch up with us, so.
yeah, I
I
think
think
so.
that's a good point, Katie. In fact, in the CDC meeting, turning to the students that were in the room, many of them expressed that in their college, not only just in essays, but in the interview process, or they wanted to find a more well-rounded person who, what have you done in your community? What are you doing outside of school or within school to make it maybe a better place, a better atmosphere? If you guys wanted to share, I don't know, but you all gave us those updates when we were having those discussions about what the profile should look like, so. Anything you want to add?
I think something that I mentioned during the curriculum development committee was, it was on the slideshow when you were speaking about the attributes that we decided as a group. It said academic curiosity, but I believe that it should extend past being interested in something for a grade, because curiosity as the driving force is what's going to keep a person happy. And I believe that intrinsic motivation is important, especially for students going to college and beyond.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's beautifully said, yeah.
Thank you.
So hopefully, we'll have this work completed by the end of the year, maybe finished up over the summer. But once this profile is done, you can kind of see us making decisions in curriculum and instruction, saying, well, or social emotional programming, before we make a final decision, how is this supporting the profile? Is what areas of the profile is this supporting as we make a decision to move forward with this work? So
Great.
looking forward to keeping the work going and updating
Thank you.
everyone in the very near future.
Thank you, Mr. Poole.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And Glenn, it's called the Cocoa Press, and I'll send you the link.
The Cocoa Press.
He already has 2 of them here, too.
That's great. I mean, our students probably hear a lot about plastics and the detriments to the environment. They're just problem solvers, you know?
Cocoa Press.
Press.
Win-win.
I like that.
Okay, next up would be our votes and resolutions. May I get, I'm looking for a motion on the approval of January 9th, 2024 regular public meeting minutes. Rob, you'll abstain on this one, please. May I get a motion? Jim, second Mike, any discussion or questions? Okay to vote? So it'll be 5-0. Next up is the approval of the CP.
5-0.
501, sorry, thank you, Rob. Jim, appreciate that. Approval of the CPSE, CSE, and 504 meeting summary memo dated January 10th, 2024. May I get a motion? First Jim, second Katie. Any discussion or question? All in favor? So I have 6-0. Next up will be our approval of policies, a first reading. Ms. Mahoney, if I can have you please read
Yes.
them all. Thank you.
Thank you. So the SWR administration meets monthly to review policies in the sequence of the NISBA Policy Manual Development Plan. The following policies have been reviewed by the Board Policy Committee. The following list of policies which have been reviewed of these are new or revised policies. Number 5,000, student policies goals, be a new policy adopted as a category opener. We just discussed removing the list of goals as they're clear throughout the other policies. 5020.3, rights of students with disabilities, is a new policy to adopt and remove the language regarding modifications for non-academic times. 5030, student complaints, would replace district policy 7550 due to it giving clear intent and direction. 5130 and the exhibit is compulsory attendance ages, which is a new policy to be adopted with its exhibit as it is current and follows compulsory education laws. 5150, student admissions, would replace district policy 7120 and 7121. The language would include specification of kindergarten age of entry and consideration for admission of students for grades other than kindergarten, and we also remove specific documentation as proof of residency. 6,000 fiscal management goals will be a new policy to adopt as a category opener, as it gives an overview of the fiscal management of the district. 6,100 annual budget, which is a new policy to adopt as it's clear on law and regulation regarding components of the budget process. And 6110 and the regulation, budget planning, would replace district policies 5110, 5120, 5130, and 5140. With the NISBA policy and regulation as it clearly outlines the procedure of budget planning. The following district policies are just being renumbered to align with NISBA's policy numbering system. 4330 would be renumbered from, 7642 would be renumbered from 4330 to 4330. 8430 would be renumbered to 4451. 8440 would be renumbered to 4730. 7460 would be renumbered to 5040, 5330 would be renumbered to 6150, 5210 would be renumbered to 6200, and 5560 would be renumbered to 6210. And the following list of district policies were recommended to be abolished for reasons being either they're not required, not applicable to district practice, redundant concept or language to other adoptable policies, or not practical for enforcement. 4334.1, dual credit for college courses, 4420, class size in the high school, 4510, purposes of instructional material, 4510.1, instructional technology, 4771, participation in graduation ceremonies and activities, 5020.4, use of service animals, 5110, request for district boundary changes, and 5120, school census. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mahoney. May I get a motion? Megan, second Katie. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? 6-0. Next up is approval of our December 2023 Treasurers Report. May I get a motion, please? Jim, second Katie. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? 6-0. Next up are the curriculum and instruction resolutions. Is it okay if I take them as a block? So I'm going to start with 2324-111 and go through 2324-114. May I get a motion? First Katie, second Jim. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? 6-0. If there's anything I want to say about that, no. Okay. Next up are business and operation resolutions. Start with 2324-115. If it's okay, I'll take them as a block. And they run through 2324-129. Any discussion or questions on these? No? May I get a motion? Megan, second Katie. All in favor? 6-0. I think these are mostly all changes.
A lot of good credits there. Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, right, Mike? Yeah. Lots of reimbursements. Next up I have is personnel. May I get a motion? First Mike, second Jim. Any discussion or question on personnel? All in favor? 6-0. Regarding the discussion, Jerry, did we want to have a discussion about the 2024-2025 academic calendar?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Mr. Hayward, it's up on the screen, there's
Oh, okay,
talk
great.
a little bit off of the calendar, plans to discuss it this
Okay.
evening, and then adopt the calendar next year so we can start planning. At our next meeting, adopt it, and then so we'll begin planning for next year once the calendar's adopted.
Terrific, thank you.
Mr. Hayward.
Okay, so first, what we always do is we look at what the BOCES, Eastern Suffolk BOCES calendar is. We looked at their draft. Always remembering that we contractually have 184 days in our school year, where they only have 181. So we have to make up those 3 days to begin with. So looking at the calendar this year, there would have to be 3 days that they would not be in session, that we would be in session. So those 3 days that we determined that would fit this community would be for October 31st, they have off for Diwali. And then in March 31st, they have Eid al-Fitr. And then in June 6th, they have Eid al-Adha for off for those days. So we didn't feel that we needed that based on the demographics of our community at this point. One of the other changes is it's a required New York State one, is we have the Lunar New Year, which is January 29th next year, that we are required to have off, along with, which happened a few years ago, was it June 19th or Juneteenth day, so that would be in June as well. And that left us, basically, we needed to find 2 more days. Or we looked at the calendar and we saw that there's 2 solid weeks for the December into January break, with January 2nd and 3rd being a Thursday and a Friday. Really not a reason why we would need to have them. So I know a lot of the feedback we've gotten in the past, and that's why we recommended it, was have those 2 days have school be open, but then have the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and the Monday after Easter as days off. And that gives us to 184. And it makes us nice also, so we don't have to start before Labor Day.
Thank you, Brian. Any thoughts from the board on this calendar proposed?
No, I agree with those those are trade-offs that seem reasonable and, you know, what we what works. If we were to have a student who celebrates those holidays that BOCES has, but we don't, do they provide, like, does the state provide a religious exemption?
I believe they would be.
They would have an excused absence.
An excused absence?
Yeah.
Just a quick question or comment, and I know that I've used this calendar as my guide throughout the year, as my kids have gone through Miller Avenue to now the high school. And sometimes it's tough I know certain schools have additional days off for either parent-teacher conference or, well, probably only that day. I know here we have the superintendent's conference identified, but not the individual school days off. And I know there are calendars on the website, but you have to kind of scroll through the months, I guess, if you want to go through the individual calendars. But is there any way to incorporate all that into one calendar? Or is that is it too busy?
Yeah. Well, what we do now is this is the academic calendar. We don't decide on that calendar until this is approved. So we wouldn't be able to.
I know, but are you envisioning
that,
publishing potentially a calendar that encompasses all the days off for all the schools?
It should be on the district-wide main calendar on the webpage, and if they don't, what should happen is that the sub-calendars would get loaded, so I could just look at Miller Avenue, but if I go to district-wide main, I should see Miller Avenue, Wading River, I should see all of it on a district-wide main. If it's not up there, then something's not right in the system, because all of that feeds that.
Yeah, but you have to like click you have to like go with a
Yes.
month. Again, this is just
Yes,
a comment,
yeah.
because if I'm planning a trip, let's say, and I don't realize that, my daughter's school is off 2 days before, it'd be nice. It would be nice. It wouldn't, I'm not saying,
You mean the refrigerator calendar?
yeah, the refrigerator, exactly.
The refrigerator
Exactly,
calendar.
yeah, the
I live
refrigerator
by that
calendar.
as well, yes.
Yeah.
That is something we could consider. We could definitely consider what are those costs, and what's the value of that? Is that something the parents would welcome back, a hard copy of that calendar? Could be, so we could definitely look into that. I'll get back to you on that.
Any other thoughts on the calendar? So next up, it'll go for adoption next meeting?
We'll get on the next agenda meeting. We'll make sure we make a note to families in the email update on the board to make sure they check the calendar. If they have any questions,
Okay.
they can reach out to us,
Thanks,
give us
Joseph.
some feedback.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Stephanie, any comments for presidents? Okay, thank you. Okay, may I get a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting? First Katie, second Rob, all in favor? 6-0. Want to thank Jessica and Emily again for attending tonight and all your great updates. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Good night, everyone.